Hello, family. I'm Russ. It's always humble and honor, to do anything in service anytime I'm asked. And I was taught you suit up, you show up, and you carry the message of what I've been taught. And can you hear me? Yeah. Okay. A little nervous. You know how the jitters kick in. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? All right. My sobriety date's 11/22/12. I'm a firm believer it's only through God's grace and the mercy that I was given the luxury down at the Allegheny County Jail, and the 3 hots in the cot. All right. That's exactly what I needed at that point in time in my life. Growing up, it was like, my family gave me everything I ever wanted, man. Like, I never wanted for anything. There was 5 of us, and there was always other siblings in my house. My mom was an alcoholic. My dad worked his tail off in order to pay all the bills. You know what I mean? And that's pretty much what it came down to. And then I started drinking and using when I was probably about 8 years old. You know what I mean? And I started acting out. But I know once I put that chemical in me that like something had taken over, where I finally felt a part of something, and I felt able to talk to people and communicate with people, and that's what I continue to strive for through my whole adolescent years. You know what I mean? Ultimately, I got locked up when I was about 12 years old. I got out when I was about 19. Then I let my brother move in with me, and the reason I let my brother move in with me was because he was my ways and means to get more alcohol. And then it was like, I was the frat house. Everybody in the neighborhood wanted to come to my house. They wanted to party because I had the ways and means. But I had the failure and the understanding that, like, oh, maybe I got to pay bills. I didn't understand that they shut lights off when you didn't pay light bills. You know what I mean? I had no living skills whatsoever. You know what I mean? And I just ripped and ran, man. Like, people ask me where I'm from, man. I really can't give you an honest answer because I lived in every area code in the city of Pittsburgh, man. I ran for me my whole life. You know what I mean? I can never understand when I call my parents. They're like, I'm worried about you. And I'm like, well, why are you worried? Like, you know what I mean? They're like, I'm afraid I'm going to get that phone call that you're dead. And I couldn't even register that feeling or my thought because I couldn't feel. You know what I mean? I couldn't understand why I was so depressed, wanting to kill myself. I don't know, maybe because I'm drinking a depressant. You know what I mean? And it was like, you're bipolar, you're all these other things, but I couldn't understand. I was self-medicating my whole life, I used many sedatives. I did it all, man. You know what I mean? I'm not innocent. I was taught you suit up and you show up, and I guarantee you if I took my shirt off, I got tattoos everywhere. People always look at me, you know what I mean? And I just kind of like chuckle because it's like it's not what's on the outside, it's what's carried on the inside, and it's like what you do for the other person that needs help. That's what I'm taught, you know what I mean? And so by the grace of God, I finally got into an altercation with a police officer on 11/21/12, and I was incarcerated in Allegheny County Jail. And I failed to be honest with my family that I had relapsed, you know what I mean, because I wanted to keep that image going. So my dad, he was like, I'll bail you out. This is the last time, you know what I mean? 19 hours later, I'm back in the Allegheny County Jail. Winning, So I was incarcerated for about 9 months. I'm facing 22 to 32 years in the penitentiary. You know what I mean? I'd screwed up pretty good, man. And it's like, I was at the point where it was like, that weight was finally lifted off my shoulder. Like, I knew at that moment in time, I was willing to accept anything that came down the pike at that point. So if that meant me going upstate for a couple decades, that meant me going upstate, I had the 3 wise men in the city of Pittsburgh, man. It was like I was always afraid of the cops and everything else. But it was like, the thing was like I was always doing something illegal. You know what I mean? So therefore, I was that's who I was. You know what I mean? So I had Judge Mariani, Judge Tazanowski, and Judge Durkin. You know what I mean? And they're the worst judges to have in the city. And the fact is like I go in front of Mariani, and I'm like, oh my God, what am I going to do? And my lawyer's like, Your Honor, he's an addict. Blah blah blah. And the judge looked at me and he said, well, who's to say I'm not going to let him out of jail right now? He's going to go to the bar and party. And I'm like, this dude's good. Like, you know what I mean? So then, my lawyer that she was just like, hey, he has mental health issues. And the judge is like, well, what happens when his welfare runs out and he can no longer take the prescribed medication he needs to take in order to be a productive member of society? What do I do then? And I was like, damn. You know, see, the program teaches us about these spiritual experiences, these spiritual awakenings. And when the judge read my rap sheet from the age of 18 to then, I was 32, I wanted to throw up. Because if I would have died that night, that's how they would have remembered me. You know what I mean? And I said in my heart at that point in time that, like, you know what, I was going to do anything in my power to not be the man that I once was. You know what I mean? I got out. I went to a 3/4 way house by the grace of God, man, and there's a group full of men, man, I owe my life to today, man. I truly do, man, because they made me the man that I am today, man. Like, hands down, man. They taught me how to be a dad. You know, they taught me how to be a business owner. They taught me how to balance a checkbook. You know, they taught me how to pay taxes. You know what I mean? And it's all because of the guys in the program. Like, see, I was always the guy that would go to the program, and I'd find a girl, you know, I'd get a truck, then I'd get the apartment, then I'd get the hostage. You know what I mean? It was like 30, 60, 90, and then I'd see you later. You know what I mean? I couldn't understand why people didn't like me. You know what I mean? Because I was unwilling to take any suggestion that anybody set forth in front of me, because I felt Russ knew what Russ needed to do, and you didn't. You just didn't want to help me. You know what I mean? And that was a little over 3 years ago, man. And like Sid said, man, my life has taken, like, it's amazing. You know what I mean? I got a construction company now. I had 3/4 way houses to help others. You know what I mean? And my sponsor family's like, you know, the most important thing in our lives is to help the new guy, man, period. You know what I mean? I go up to the guy that's shaking in a meeting. I know he's nervous. He's like a deer in headlights, man, and I'm like right to him. You know what I mean? Because I felt the emptiness, the despair. You know, there's nothing left, man. I burnt every bridge. Every single bridge I'd come across. Like, when I got out, I didn't even know what I was going to do. I truly didn't. My only lifeline to the outside world was my dad, and he almost like didn't pick up the phone, because he was like, you need to treat me with a little respect. You know what I mean? The program taught me respect. You know what I mean? That's why, like, I take my hat off when I go to the podium. You know, I suit up anytime I'm asked to speak, because it's respect. The respect that other men gave me, it's my turn to give back to them. You know what I mean? And so I'm part of this young people thing, and you know, it's been a wild 3 years, man. To watch kids like 18, 19 years old get sober and stay sober, and get active in the program, and help other guys in the program. Like, it's just like, to see that light go off in that guy's eyes, man, it's crazy, man. It's like, that's payment within itself, you know what I mean? That truly is, man. And we just had a conference last weekend down at the Marriott. Man, it was a God-centered conference, man. God was definitely there, man. And a lot of people are intimidated by God, but like, that's the only reason why I stand before you today, man, because, like, if I got what I deserved, I'd be dead or in the penitentiary for the rest of my life. And that's the harsh reality of the situation, you know what I mean? And actually, in about an hour, we're headed to Nashville, because I'm going to another conference. And so about 6 people are meeting up in my house, and we're going to head down there. I never in my wildest dreams think I would travel around the United States, you know what I mean? Like, I had this one square in my life, and I was afraid to leave that block. You know what I mean? It was like, I was so engulfed in fear. Like, the program told me that I suffer from 100 forms of fear, and when I was able to work through that with my sponsor, I was able to identify 68 of them. You know what I mean? I couldn't understand why I was so angry all the time, and the reason why I was so angry was because I was holding resentments. And it told me that resentments will kill me, man. You know what I mean? For me to have a resentment is to drink. For me to drink is to die. Hands down, plain and simple. When I drink, man, I get in trouble, I go to jail. That's the bottom line, man. I can't drink. Like, somebody asked me, like, why don't you drink? And I'm like, because I don't feel like going to jail today. You know what I mean? Like, that's the harsh reality of the situation in my life. And, like, I don't even think about drinking anymore, man. I really don't. You know, that obsession is truly, God's lifted that for me. You know, and that's an utter blessing, man. It truly is. You know what I mean? By any means am I exempt, man. You know, there's certain things you have to do in this program in order to stay exempt, and that's to continue to carry the message and continue to help the guy that's still suffering. You know what I mean? There's guys I don't talk to, and I choose not to, because they haven't done anything to change their life. But then there's guys that I choose to reach my hand out to because they want a new way of life. You know what I mean? It tells me in the book, that anybody that's unwilling to accept what I'm willing to give, then it's a waste of my time, and then I have to move forward because I can't waste my time on somebody who doesn't need help. You know what I mean? The book was sheerly designed for my way of life. You know what I mean? Every time I read it, something else speaks different to me, man, and it's just, it's a blessing. It's a humble blessing, man, and wanted to keep this brief and short and sweet, and it's always an honor. Thank you.
Wow, thank you, Russ. That's a tough act to follow. How honest is he?